What's up, everyone? New Skill here, coming at you live with the 2024 deck profile for Heroes. I love Heroes, I always have, and honestly, I've been seeing a lot of deck profiles going around the internet right now. I thought I'd throw my 2 cents in. Heroes, while it's not the most competitive deck out there, still has a lot of interesting tricks up sleeves and has a lot of different ways you can build it, even though the main core of the deck is the same. A lot of variables can be different that can really impact how you do in your locals or in your more competitive tournaments. Without further ado, let's get started with the monsters, actually. Most of the hero lineup remains the same. I'm doing a few things a bit differently because I want to try new things. I've been competing in a lot of locals, and it's been doing pretty well for me. First off, we'll start with our hero lineup, our elemental hero lineup, I mean. First, you start with Neos. You need Neos in every hero deck. Same thing with 3 Stratos. I prefer 3 Stratos because it's an excellent starter, and you can easily search it out with other things. There's nothing wrong ever to have 3 Stratos in your deck. Shallow Mist and Liquid Soldier, both these are very common. You see, some people run the 2 Shallow Mist. I prefer not to, because honestly, unless it's your very first turn and you're trying to go special summon for the mass change, most of the time you only activate its effects once anyway. And the Liquid Soldier, it's Liquid Soldier. Something that's a little bit different, however, I'm running the one Blazeman. Blazeman is a little bit different, of course, because a lot of people choose not to run it because when you have Vision Hero Vion, it already searches polymerization, so why do you need a Blazeman? Well, in this deck, I've decided that Blazeman's going to be a really strong tech card because a lot of people tend to run things like Dimensional Shifter. Dimensional Shifter absolutely destroys Vion since you have nothing to graveyard. Blazeman, however, that's an easy way for you to search polymerization without needing to have things inside your graveyard. And not only that, I'm running a slightly bigger deck. So Blazeman is not only is it an excellent way to search poly, it's another starter for poly, and it's another big way for you to just continue all your combos. Something that I'm also trying as new, as opposed to every single other hero deck, right? I'm actually running one non-elemental, non-hero monster, which is Crosskeeper. Crosskeeper is actually very unique here. You tend to see these a lot in Neos decks. However, I decided to run it in my deck for 2 reasons. One, let's say you start the duel, you have 2 Shadows in your hands, right? And nothing with the Crosskeeper, right? You can normal summon, let's say it gets Ash Blossom. You can discard the Crosskeeper into the graveyard, right? And what you call it, summon the other Stratos, or even if your Stratos in the graveyard, you can banish this to special summon the Stratos. What's called, the really good thing too about Crosskeeper is if you have if you ever summon an Elemental Hero Fusion monster, which you will, it's a hero deck, you can banish it from your graveyard, and it essentially copies Liquid Soldier's effect, what you're gonna call it, to draw 2, but instead discard 1, you can, you have to put 1 to the bottom of your deck, which is actually very interesting, because that's an excellent way, let's say, oh, you're unfortunate, and you draw your increase. What's called, you can just throw your increase back in, and it's all good. So, Crosskeeper is something I've been trying out a lot in my deck, and honestly hasn't disappointed me yet. After that, of course, we're going to our Destiny Hero lineup. You got the 3 Malicious. What's called Malicious, ever since ban list came out and put it back to 3, it's been so much help to make sure that this deck remains consistent. And honestly, I couldn't even think about going back to 2. And of course, you have the Denier, which is essentially a 4th Malicious, and a Plasma. Plasma carries a lot of these games. Sometimes, even against something like Tenpai, you put Plasma out, you basically win the game right there. It negates all effects on the field, and Tenpai, they need to crash into things, they need to have their effects off, and it works so well into other decks. And unless they can beat down your Plasma, or get, let's say, Lightning Storm, what's called, to destroy your Plasma, you're golden, and it's basically a free win. If they do Lightning Storm, I actually have a tech card for that later that I'm going to show you. After that, of course, you have the Vision Hero lineup. You have the 3 Ferrises, can never run less than 3, 2 Vions. Some people run 3, however, I'm already running a good amount of cards in this deck. I run 50, what's called. So now, which might sound crazy considering a lot of people say the less you run, the better it is. But there's a lot of cards that you want to dodge. So having more cards actually helps with that. And I put in a lot more starters to really balance it out. And speaking of cards that you don't want to draw, I have the 2 increases. The increases are very important. A lot of people only run 1 because you only have to go through the combo once. But not only is the 2 good for the combo game, not the combo game, the long game, the grind game, that's what it's called. Because there's been more than once where I actually got Ferris off twice and I didn't draw either my violence or increases. It allows me to go to the combo more than once in the game. And not only that, the odds of you drawing both your increases, especially in a 50 card deck, is very, very, very minute. And honestly, if you have the one and you draw the increase, it's disastrous. The game's not over, but it's basically over. Next, let's go in with the spells. The spells, no surprise, you're running 3 Hero Lives, 3 Fusion Destinies. These 2 cards are really, really strong. They're basically bomb cards. Hero Lives on flat board. 4,000 life points might seem a lot, but honestly, to special summon any hero monster, level 4 lower hero monster from your deck, in any other deck that'd be broken, you have to run this 3. And same thing with Fusion Destiny. Never, ever, ever go past 3 with those. Now we're going for the 2-ofs. I have 2 polys, 2 mass changes, and 2 emergency calls. A lot of people run the poly and the mass changes at 1. However, with the poly, a lot of times people very specifically target your Vion to stop you from getting poly. So let's say if you ever open with your poly, or even if you have one in your opening hand and you search another one, that's one more thing they have to worry about. And same thing with the mass change. Mass change you could of course search with a Shadow Mist. However, to have a mass change and be able to dodge effect failures, infinite imperms with that will actually change a game strong in your favor. And honestly, no one ever really expects it. And the 2 emergency calls might seem a little bit weird. However, since I'm running a slightly beefier deck, I want to have the 2 emergency calls so I have more starters in my deck and really round out my deck to be more consistent. Next we have the 1-ofs. The 1-ofs, I have the Miracle Fusion. You need the Miracle Fusion, of course. Sunrise, Miracle Fusion is great. The second weird thing I'm running is D-Force. D-Force I don't see is run in nearly enough decks. It's very slept on. The great thing about D-Force, honestly, is 1, it's basically second copy Plasma, because using D-Force you can search your Plasma. Not only can you search your Plasma, let's say you're really put in bind, let's say they draw and Lockbird you, right? And you already have Plasma in your hand. You can fuse with your Plasma into a Destiny Hero that you already have out, into your DPE. And D-Force actually lets you search out from your graveyard too, which honestly a lot of people don't really think about. And not only that, D-Force gives your Plasma a lot more protection. And actually, if you look at it closely, right, not only does it give you 100 attack for each hero monster in your graveyard, which, by the way, the threshold for 2,000 is actually very important for Plasma, because once it's out, a lot of people will only plan on beating over it. And a lot less cards have over like 2,600, 2,700 attack to beat over it without using any effects. And it actually gives your Plasma protection from your opponent's card's effect, and you can't even target any of your other cards while you have Plasma out. The one bad downside, the downside of D-Force, is you can't draw in your draw phase if you have Plasma out. However, if you have Plasma out, odds are you won't even really need it, because all the effects don't work. You can just beat over them. You get attacked twice with Plasma. I think D-Force is very heavily slept on, and I would suggest people try this out a lot more. Next, you have Rhoda and Foolish Burial. These 2 are essentially the same thing. Rhoda reinforces the army. Search any level 4 or lower warrior monster, which, by the way, is most of your heroes. It's even Crosskeeper if you want to add that to your hand. and Foolish Burial. Shadow Mist, your Crosskeeper is good as another starter to make your deck a little more consistent. And lastly, for the last on-engine card in the deck, I actually have Favorite Contact. Favorite Contact, everyone's running it in hero decks. It's beyond broken. You get to play on their turn, essentially summon your shiny or wingman, and essentially even for your Destiny heroes, like I'm running 2 different types of Destiny heroes. You could put your 2 Maliciouses back from the banish zone back into your deck, so you have 2 more special summons with Malicious. You can get very creative with this card, and honestly, the fact that you can't send the fusion summon cards back into the extra deck if you use a normal monster like Neos is actually very, very nice. Next, we go on our off engine. I'm running a lot in my off engine just because since I'm running more cards right now, I'm actually running 13 off engine to really give me a lot more opportunity to play against my opponents, stop them. Even though elemental heroes are known for all their gas, I feel like there's enough starters and enough power in my deck that even if I'm running a little bit more off engine, I can still play through whatever they throw out, and I can actually stop them from putting all their negates on the board in the first place. First off, you have 3 Ash Blossoms. Ash Blossom, always a great card. You see it a lot. A lot of people have not been running it recently in hero decks because they're going with the board breaker. However, while I really, really like the idea of having strong board breakers on the board, some decks crumble under Ash Blossom. Like Branded, if you Ash Blossom the one card, their fusion card, they're essentially dead in the water most of the time. Same thing with a lot of these decks. You Ash Blossom right, the game's basically over. You have the triple attack. Triple attack wins you games sometimes. Let's say they Ash Blossom you. You choose to pick a card from hand. You take it, get rid of the Nibiru, and you're basically free at that point. And worst comes to worst, you can take a card, draw 2. Nothing's wrong with the Pot of Greed. Forbidden Droplet. Forbidden Droplet is basically broken in this deck. There's a lot of cards that, like Malicious, you have in your hand that you would prefer to see in your graveyard. And like most board breakers, if you have this and you can discard through your hands that can use again later to negate the entire board, basically, it's very, 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 very properly rated, and you need this in your deck. Lastly is Infinite Permanence. I prefer to use this as a board breaker. You Infinite Permanence into the Forbidden Droplet. To for sure guarantee that you're negating more than enough on their board. However, you can even use this like another Ash Blossom, which is really good. And last is Called by the Grave. Called by the Grave, it's anti-Ash Blossom. What else can you say? And with that, that's your main deck. That's 50 cards right there. Let's go into the extra deck. Extra deck is pretty much the same as you always see. You have the Shining Neos Wingman. You have the Infernal Rage, Wake Up the Omni-Hero, the Sunrise, and the Absolute Zero. These are your 5 elemental hero fusions. Some people choose to not run the Absolute Zero. However, I still find it very good to go in. It gives you an easy thing to fuse for with your Liquid Soldier. Get that plus draw 2, discard 1. And even then, there's nothing wrong with, let's say you even fusion summon this and you link it off. That's good enough to wipe the entire board, and it really opens you up just to OTK your opponent. Next, you have my Destiny line for fusions. I only run 2. I run DPE, everyone runs DPE. And I actually prefer to run Dystopia. Some people don't run Dystopia. They either just stick with the DPE or they run with, I believe, the other Destiny hero monster. I can't think of the name right now. I prefer this one because not only is it 2 generic Destiny hero, which, like I said, if you favorite contact, you can pick your 2 banished Maliciouses and put them in the bottom of your deck. And it actually combos really well with your Sunrise as a pop. Let's say they try to get rid of your favorite contact. You would probably have your Sunrise out and gives you another pop anytime you want. After that, I have 2 Mask Heroes. I have Mask Hero Dark Law, and Mask Hero Blast. I prefer Blast over Divine Wing because Blast actually does something. You don't often go into this, but when you do, it can minutely help. Whether you're trying to beat something over or you're just trying to send something a back row that might be dangerous back to their hand. And Dark Law wins games by itself half the time. So you gotta include. Some people run it at 2. However, I prefer to run it at 1 so I can actually have room for one more tech card that I'm going to show you at the end here. Next, you have your extra hero lineup. You run 1 Wonder Driver, 1 Dread Decimator, 1 Infernal Devicer, and 2 Crossout Crusaders. Nothing's really changed here. Crossout Crusaders actually, you run 2 of these because 1, if the first one's negated early, you can actually put out the second one to use the second effect, which is a good search. And sometimes you're in the grind game, and having a second one actually really improves your chances. And last card is actually not a hero card. It's actually Baguska, number 41. Baguska, most of the time you don't go into it. This is essentially an emergency panic button. If they drone lockbird you, if they dimensional shifted you, and you have nothing else to go into, you summon this defense position, hope for the best. Maybe it can negate another effect so you can live and see your next turn. This is essentially your panic button. You don't want to see this card, but it's good to have when you need it. And last but not least, I have my side deck. The good thing about running 50 cards is you have a lot of opportunity to go into your side deck and properly side in what you need for that exact matchup. First of all, I run 3 Nibiru in my side deck. Nibiru, very underrated card. A lot of people aren't using it that much anymore, which is actually good for you, considering 1, your heroes, you don't want to see it. But however, if you're the one against running Nibiru, no one ever expects it. It's just essentially a free win against some decks, as long as you activate at the right time, which, some people have trouble with. Next is 3 Booker Eclipse. I love running this in my main deck. I decided to move it to my side deck because while it's really, really good to 1, negate the entire board, and 2, it's actually really good to cover for your Stratoses so they can't be infinite impermed or effect failured. I find that it's better in a side deck because not all decks properly set out a board like that to negate, even though it's very common. And oftentimes it's better when you know you're going first or going second, depending on what you're looking for. Next is Evenly Match. We all love Evenly Match. While heroes are known for their OTKs, sometimes going second, you really just want to clear out their board as quickly as possible, leaving them with only one thing, and then setting up your board to stop them from playing. I'm also running 3 Cosmic Select clones and 1 Harpy's Fair Duster. These, of course, back row removal. Harpies, well, a lot of people don't run anymore. It's good against certain decks, even something like what's called Tenpai. Tenpai always hides behind the field spell, get rid of that. Cosmic Cyclones just fully banishes it. Very important to tech these in certain cards. And the last 2, I actually have Dark Angel. You love Dark Angel. Not good against a lot of decks. A lot of decks have easy outs to it. However, if you face against like a Branded, something that really can't get rid of this, it basically wins the game by itself. And Rivalry Warlords. The Rivalry Warlords into Dark Angel kills so many decks you have no idea. Rivalry Warlords in of itself kills a lot of decks just by itself because Rivalry Warlords, let's say you Rivalry Warlords a combo deck that's running multiple engines. They summon 1 card of one of the engines, it essentially turns off the rest of the engines, and that's another free one for you. I prefer not to run in my main deck because turn 1, it's essentially, if they go first, then it's essentially useless to you and it's a dead card. But going second, this card is really, really underrated. Even though it's kind of scummy, but what are you going to do? And that's it. That's my hero deck. I've been experimenting with this a lot, and it's been turning some really good results. I'm actually going to post a different deck profile soon after my next locals, see how it went, maybe make adjustments with it, and I'll see you guys then. Like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys later.